Cancer didn't just change my life, but it really triggered a transformation. I went from fear to focus and from despair to discipline. And through what I call the tides, treatment, inspiration, diet, exercise, and sleep, I found 5 ways to fight back. And in helping others discover those same tools, I found something I really never expected to find, which is purpose, joy, and the will to keep going. And not just for me, but for the 315,000 others in the United States who are diagnosed with prostate cancer every year. And roughly 36,000 of those, according to the American Cancer Society, are likely to die from their cancer. So for me, it was completely transformational.
How much of it was mindset, like really focusing and shifting your mind? How much of it was physical, right? Getting up in the morning, getting going, getting motivated, right? And so I'm curious, for you, how was that balance in this battle? Because it really is
Yeah,
a battle for your life.
yeah. It's a great question. I think I would answer it started as a physical battle. It was what are the physical things I need to do to minimize the effect of this treatment on me in terms of side effects and optimize its effect on the cancer. And so that physical, my obsession, even in research, was all on the physical. Now, what I discovered a few weeks later, about 6 to 9 weeks after that, I realized that's not enough. There's a mental, a psychological, another dimension of this that I'm terribly underestimating. And I call it inspiration. And it literally is, and there are two parts to the definition of inspiration. It's the act of becoming enthusiastic about feeling or doing something, and combined with the belief that we have the ability to influence outcomes. That second part is absolutely critical. That
Yes.
and I didn't appreciate that as I started this journey. It was all physical, but now I realize that cultivating this belief that there are things I can do to influence outcomes is going to be what fuels my fire to attempt to influence those outcomes. And so I real fortunately I do have that belief, and I think our background as executives at CBS taught us that belief, like accountability, right? We're taught that we believe we can influence the outcome, even if we can't. We're supposed, we believe it. I'm in about 5 different, very large Facebook chat groups for people with prostate cancer, and I'm like a frequent contributor in all of these groups. And I'm proud to say that like people every day reach out to me in those groups. Some of them have know me because I've interacted with them before, and others probably even more so reach out. It's kind of like, hey, John, are you out there? Tony told me to reach out to you. I got a question about whatever.
That's amazing.
And I've kind of become the go-to guy in a lot of these chat groups. But I can instantly tell if the person I'm interacting with believes or doesn't believe in their ability to influence the outcomes. So I often will just respond by asking the question, do you believe you can make a difference in your outcomes? And if the person responds by saying, there's nothing I can do, or it's all genetics, or something like that, then I have a different approach I'm going to follow in coaching them. Because it's not about answering their question on ice cream. It's about convincing them that they have some ability to control the outcomes. And if they don't develop that belief, they're not going to shift the odds in their favor. And so it becomes about that.
And you bring up a great point, right? Because not not everyone is able to shift their mind to start that transformation for themselves, right? And at some point, John, you have to say, there's not much more I can do for you. I've got to back off, focus on the people who want to make that difference, who want to transform, who want to influence, who want to do something more and push this as far as much as they can. but also thinking about yourself because you're in your own battle.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I will tell you I get such um, joy and in purpose from helping others with prostate cancer. And I recall these men that I spoke to when I got that bad email, the tissue exam results. And one of these guys, I'll just use his first name. It was Dave. I don't have I didn't ask him the person to use his name, but he he was in fact, you know who introduced me to him? Another executive at CVS that's on my personal board of directors. I called him and he says to me, "You know what, John, let me call you back in 15 minutes."
That's
And he
amazing.
calls me back and he says, "I've got someone you need to talk to." And so he connects me to this guy, Dave. Dave is a guy who had advanced prostate cancer and has gone through all of the treatment that I've just discovered I'm now signing up for. And he's about 2 years after completing it. And he's doing very well and he's in remission. And he's also a recovered alcoholic who coaches other people who are recovering. And so he was an unbelievable coach. And I became his project for a few months. And so when I started treatment, he would call me, he would text me, how's it going? And I think back to people like Dave and others too, but he stands out in my mind. And I pay it forward, right? So when I'm helping these people, I recall their strength and their support. And I enjoy so much helping these people. Even the ones you raise a great point, right? There's ones I don't want to waste my time on someone who's not going to do what they need to do
Right.
to make a difference. But at the same time, I don't want to give up on them either.
You knew and understood what was ahead in the work that you had to put into this and the research and the emotional uplifts that you had to go through and building community, all the things that you've done. And then you've got people just like this who don't see that. Or I guess my question is, what do you see is the challenge with people like this? Is it that they have just given up and don't see a path forward, or
It's
something
you know
else?
what it is? It's that they see the mountain in front of them that they have to climb, and they don't see that there's another side to the mountain. They get to the top and there's a beautiful view and it's all downhill from there and everything's good. And this is what I try to tell them. I made that video for the patientstories.com. And what I really tried to emphasize is that there's an ordinary world on the other side of this that you can get to, even if you are on treatment for the rest of your life. There, you can find a new normal, and it's actually pretty good. Now, I remember this, I personally experienced. It's such a great question because for me, I saw the mountain first too, and I'm like, holy God, my life is over. Everything that I enjoy, pizza, steak, my sex life, urinary control, all of that is out the window for the rest of my life. My life is going to be awful. And you can easily convince yourself that that's going to be a pretty awful scenario. Um, but the truth of the matter is, you can actually get to a point that all of those things could still be true and life can still be pretty good. I actually think I'm happier now than before I had cancer. And I have more purpose in my life and I feel better. I know that sounds weird, but I
No.
feel healthier. I'm on the world's healthiest diet. So, like, I think I have more energy. I don't think I need as much sleep. I feel better. I'm certainly more appreciative of every good moment I have. I'm more grateful. I get more out of every good moment than I did before. And so I know that there's another side to this. And so I try to share that with these other men. I know it's terrifying to look these side effects and these lifestyle changes in the eye, but there's another side of this, and it's actually quite good. And if you can just realize that you can get there, and you'll be amazed because because I know I've been where you are, and I didn't think that this would happen, but I now am experiencing it, and so just know that it can happen. But I also remember these men that I spoke with when I was first diagnosed, and that's what they told me. They told me, "Hey, you're going to get through this, and it's life is actually pretty good on the other side." And I didn't believe it at the time they told me that. It heartened me though. It made me feel like, okay, maybe they're telling me the truth. Maybe I'll get through. Now I know they were telling me the truth. And so I try to, but I think, your question was why do some people, why do some people find the strength to pursue the treatment and others don't? I think the ones who do have enough optimism and inspiration to believe there may be another side. They may find new normal again. They may be happy again. And so they're going to give it a shot. And some people just believe it outright. I believe I can get through this. I was in sort of the middle. I was optimistic. I was capable of self-inspiration, but I was a skeptic. I've always been a healthy skeptic.
No.
So I'm like, hopefully these men who told me this were telling me the truth and not just trying to be really positive to keep me going. And now I'm there and I realize, there is another side to this. And despite whatever side effects you may experience, life can still be very good. And a lot of men won't even experience those side effects, so they'll get through them. I mean, I kind of came out on the worst side of the side effects, but I was also on the worst side of the cancer spectrum.
Right.
So it's kind of like, it's an exchange. I'm in remission. That's all. I don't need to know anything more than that, right? That's good enough for me. But I've had some permanent side effects that a lot of men don't suffer from. But that's okay because life is still good, and I'm still, like I said, I'm even happier now than I was before the diagnosis.
So you said something, one word that I think is critical and a lot of people don't understand. And I think this is where your current transformation is, and that's purpose. I believe that you have found purpose in all this chaos, right? I mean, it's like the phoenix has burned and you are rising from the ashes and you are doing something to help other people right now.
Yes. Yeah, the real transformation came when I found purpose in sharing what I've learned with others. That's when my healing turned into meaning and my fear gave way to joy. And to me, um, that's what's exciting. And I also, I'm really impressed, like, by how your characterization of me in this dialogue is like really spot on. And like we didn't work side by side, as team members for years. We knew each other and we worked on some good projects together. But like you really like you've kind of figured me out from afar. So I'm really impressed by your sort of diagnostic capability. And so, one of the things about me is that I'm very analytical. I have a Six Sigma black belt from this University of Tennessee. I'm very proud of that. It was hard to earn that. And so I'm an incredibly analytical person. And like my wife says to me, you're like the perfect person to have advanced prostate cancer. I'm like,
Right.
I go, you gotta explain something. Lucy, you have some explaining to do. I gotta understand what you mean by that. And she says, well, you are gonna get into the nuts and bolts. You're gonna get in it. You're gonna figure it out. And while no one can cure cancer, you're gonna figure out what you need to do to shift the odds in your favor the most. And I know you, and I know you are going to share that with everyone else that you possibly can. And she's absolutely right. And that's what I live for today. That's what gets me up in the morning. And so, helping people, even the people who are resisting the help, is really joyful for me. And it really is the real part of the transformation. It's really it's such a critical part. Like Viktor Frankl, right? In his book, he talks about um, the purpose, right? You can't, it's
Right.
the last thing, cancer cannot take purpose from you. Uh,
Exactly
you
right.
can always control how you can't control whether or not you have cancer, but you can control how you respond to them. And and so for me, I really think I think about what Cheryl said to me a lot, and I think she's absolutely right. Of the 36,000 men who die from prostate cancer, if I could get 100% of them to know what I have learned, that number would probably be less than 16,000. That number would probably shrink by 20,000. 55% are my calculations on that.
And
And so
so,
now yeah,
no, go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
I actually think that I keep this number in the back of my head, 20,000, 20,000. One of the things I did at CVS that was one of the most purposeful projects I had was leading the immunization program for the business, right? CVS was not in the immunization business in 2009. And over the course of 2010, I began working very directly. First, I convinced Rob Price, the chief marketing officer, that we needed to get in this business. Then I started working on Larry and Scott Baker. These are other CVS executives. And I started working on Helena, and Helena was convinced early on, and she started helping me convince others. And I remember one time she emailed me and she said, just one email, she said, "You're making progress. Keep pushing." She sent this email to me at like 11:30 at night. Like, so I knew I was influencing the organization. And a few months later, she calls me up and she says, Helena says, "Congratulations, you got your wish. We're getting into the vaccination immunization business, and we're declaring you're the immunization czar. And but you got to keep your day job. So we're giving you a night job. So this is congratulations." I said, "I don't know if this is I should be happy or if I feel like I'm being punished." But at the same time, it was a great project because we had the analytics team calculate that for every 16,400 vaccinations we gave of the flu shot, we saved one life. And so if we hit our target of 5 million vaccinations, which we did achieve, which a year, we eventually beat that number, we would save over 300 lives. And so that was such a joyful project because every day I could measure myself by how many lives did I save. Not me, but the team, the whole team. And we would start out by getting together and having a little huddle and going, "Hey, we saved 4 lives yesterday." And that was like what we would think about. And it was like the most purposeful driven thing I ever worked on in my life until now. Now I every day, I'm not working anymore, but I think 20,000 men. If I can convince every man who has advanced prostate cancer to know what I know and to believe it, there will be 20,000 fewer deaths.
And you're doing that, right? So taking that example from
Yeah.
CVS through your work in immunization, you are now doing that through some writing and some tools that you've developed because you want to make sure that it's available to people who are undergoing the same type of cancer that you are.
Yes, I am. And I am working on a book. I'll say writing, but it's more talking.
Gotcha.
Because unfortunately, one of the side effects triggered by my treatment was something called Charcot-Marie Tooth Syndrome, which, by the way, is genetic. Like only one in like somewhere between 2,500 and 4,000 people has this. So very few people have this. Unfortunately, I drew the short straw, and so about 9 months after starting the treatment regimen, I started losing muscle in my feet and in my hands and in my fingers. And so I have very limited movement in those parts of my body. I can still type a quick email. I emailed you today, 3 or 4 sentences at a time. I can
Gotcha.
type, So I have to use all this software that relies on voice. It's really great software, and I'm so glad we have it. But it's the editing that's really hard. And so it's like writing it is easy, but editing it is hard.
Download
But anyway,
Grammarly.
yeah. So I am writing. Yeah.
Oh, I said download Grammarly.
Yes, yeah, Grammarly, Dragon by Nuance. There's some great applications out there, and so I use those to do 99% of it. I do wish I could type. I wish I had use of my hands again, as good as they were. I still can do some things with them, but it's very frustrating. But uh, but nevertheless, I can still walk. I can still do. I have to stop walking. Like every 5 minutes, I have to stop, but I can still do most things. I can still exercise. I can still do 90% of what I did before. And so I am working on this document that I'm going to give away. I'm working on the full length version, and I've actually made I'll call it a commercial for it, a digital commercial, so I can post it on social media with the PDF, so people can just click the PDF and get and download it for free. I'm going to give away a shorter version. The book. I'm going to finish the book. I'll make that available for people who want to buy it, but I'm going to take the best of the best out of the book and put in a PDF, and then I'm going to advertise the hell out of that so anyone with prostate cancer can get that for free. And I'm going to talk about, how to ride the tides, treatment, inspiration, diet, exercise, and sleep. And it's very specific, and right down to what things are good to eat and what things aren't good to eat, but more importantly, why. But I really have very detailed solutions here, and I want as many men as possible with prostate cancer to get their hands on them because I've done the work for you and for them. And as my wife said, I'm the perfect guy to do this because that's what I'm like wired to do this. And so I loved doing the research. I still do it. But anyway, but I get such purpose and joy and passion in doing it that I have trouble shutting myself off.
Yeah, it's when you find your purpose, you don't stop. And I find myself in that same situation because my purpose is to inspire and to write about the beauty and the importance and the amazing feelings that transforming yourself kind of create in you, right? And so I stay up late at night just writing and
Yeah.
researching and posting things because I'm starting to get people who reply to me and say, "Hey, keep posting these things. They're very inspirational. I really appreciate that." And even if I touch one person, that just is such a huge thing for me. And I think for people like you and I, who also worked in a corporate environment, right? We led teams. We wanted our teams to feel good about the work they're doing, to have some purpose and find value in that. And so I think that carries on to, our personal lives and our personal circumstance right now.
Yeah.
Um,
It
John,
definitely does. And it's I always found you to be such an inspirational guy. And so I didn't learn about your cancer journey until much later. And once I learned that, I wasn't surprised because it was really like you come at things from a different angle, and it was really clear to me that you have had obviously some experiences that give you insights that not everybody has.
yeah, and it's interesting that you say that because that is what's really driven me to focus on this whole concept of transformation, right? Because of my personal life and cancer and other things that happened in my childhood. But those very difficult things helped me navigate life and my career. And what I found was that I focused, even though I had a successful career and I, achieved the highest levels in the work that I was in, right? With diversity and culture shaping, etc. It wasn't fulfilling for me until it all came crashing down. And that's when I started to find purpose, right? And I hear that in your story, right? I hear that in our challenges. And things may be tough, they may not be the way they were, but I'm the healthiest I've ever been. I have purpose. I'm excited to wake up every day. I put the effort in for for the fact that somebody's going to benefit from this. And I know that you're the same person. You have the same drive. So last question here. If cancer was your teacher, what has it taught you?
I think that's a great question because, it almost makes you look at cancer with kind of a respect or an affection, which I've never really done. And so it's such a good question because it's challenging me, really. I think what it's taught me is that the power of believing that you can influence outcomes unlocks everything of meaning. It's that belief, that foundational belief that makes the difference. And it's what, for men that I talk to, other men who have prostate cancer, I can tell instantly, almost instantly, do they have that belief, or is it there somewhere that I can tap into? Because that's what they need. That's what you have to have. And if I had never had cancer, if I had never had this teacher, I never would have really understood that lesson. Certainly not to the degree that I understand it today.